We're live. Okay. So, last week I was at a bar. Comic Sans walked in to the bar. And can you believe this? The bartender said, "We don't serve your type here." There we go. Hi, everybody. I think you missed my joke because I just realized that it wasn't recording.
No, it worked.
Did it work?
Yeah.
Oh, well, I love puns. Okay, I'm so glad you got it. Awesome. So, welcome to Design Career Network. We are an experience design channel teaching designers how to enhance their careers and get that UX job. I'm Andy Galper and I'm your host. I'm a growth UX designer and a content strategist, and I'm also a producer. I run Cascade SF, an experience design organization in San Francisco. And during the daytime, I work with the biggest brands in technology, including Adobe, Google, and more. Today, I'm here with Natashia Tjandra, a senior product design manager at Electronic Arts, EA Sports, but not that one. And Natasha has worked for EA for about 2.5 years, and before that, she explored the agency life at McKinsey and Company and Razorfish, to name a few. Natasha is originally from Indonesia. She lived in Singapore for about 10 years and then moved to the United States. And in her free time, she mentors designers, organizes leadership workshops, and also runs an Instagram. It's called 3 Word Truth, and where she actually posts these beautifully designed bits of wisdom and inspiration. So that's on the screen right there if y'all want to follow. Hi, Natasha. Welcome.
Hi.
Hello.
I totally get your joke. I don't know, did you research that I was a graphic designer? Because, Comic Sans is my favorite font.
Absolutely. And it goes really well with your gifts that you're about to surprise us with tonight. Natasha loves animated gifts, so heads up, you're in for some entertainment tonight. So anyway, thanks Natasha for coming out tonight and sharing sharing your knowledge. Natasha tonight will talk about skills that hiring managers look for when hiring product designers. And she at EA hires a lot of product designers, and she'll tell you how she evaluates their skills and also things that you can do to better improve your chances of getting that UX job. So I'm going to hide away and add the stream here. And how this will work is we'll go ahead and we'll do the Natasha will give the presentation for about 25 to 35 minutes. And then after that, we'll do a Q&A where she'll answer everybody's questions. So see you in a bit. Thank you all for coming out, and audience interaction and comments are really appreciated. We love for you to interact with us. So thank you for coming out. Hiding out.
Right. Thank you, Andy. And hi, everybody. I'm so excited to be here. And thank you for watching us. Feel free to comment in the chat as we go along and have your question handy, as we will have AMA later. And I'd like to make sure that I'm answering most of your questions. So a little bit about me. My name is Natasha, and I am a senior manager, just like what Andy said. It's just a fancy title that says I lead a team of managers and designers, and I oversee, product verticals. So like this little cute blue fella here, you will find me wearing different hats at EA: hiring manager, mentor, champion, therapist, mostly, team lead, and project manager, and et cetera, et cetera. So at EA, my focus is in humanizing technology and the workplace. And I'm really passionate in helping designers grow and developing talent. So feel free to hit me up. So, what we're going to talk about today is how UX hiring managers evaluate talent. And, a little bit of disclaimer before we start. The information that I'm sharing today is not representative of EA. These are my own from my own experience and research. So, just following what legal says here. So, the million dollar question. What do UX hiring managers look for in candidates? So, as we all know, every organization has different requirements and expectations from UX designers. So, depending on the design org model, what's needed in terms of skill sets are different. So, for example, some companies want a T-shaped designers, others want a specialist, some want a designer who's got strong business acumen. So then let's run the gamut. And you're like, so what are we like, how are you evaluating candidates, right? So to make it even more complicated, like every team and every hiring manager have their own expectations and requirements based on their diverse experience and also the team culture. So I'm going to share some truths here that, some of us don't really admit is it doesn't matter if you are a rock star designer like Pablo Stanley. Like I love Pablo Stanley, I would love to work with him. Or someone who's worked with a hiring manager previously, or someone who's highly recommended, or someone who's just started in the industry. It's still a risk. So there's just so many variables in hiring. So the more you can convince hiring managers that you are worth the risk, and or the more you can minimize that risk, the higher your chances will be in getting hired. The second truth is that, skills are obviously important, but personality is a tiny bit more important. And personality plays a big role into team fit. So that's what I meant by 51% team fit and 49% hard skills. So, design is a team sport. As a designer, we collaborate with researchers, other designers, engineers, product managers, stakeholders, all of that in a single team. I mean, this requires a lot of communication and interaction between cross-disciplinary team members, and each of them will have different personalities, different experiences, different ways of working, different ways of expressing themselves. So, like, getting along with each other will be important. And getting along naturally is even better. So you should be able to talk about other topics than just work-related ones. And the team environment should be psychologically safe, where everyone, is able to feel free to express their ideas without fear, and take and give feedback in a positive way. And most importantly, bring their true selves at work. So how do we assess team fit? We assess your soft skills, amongst others. So I'd like to unpack what I mean by soft skills. So as we know, soft skills are non-technical skills that relate to how you work. So for example, you'll have collaboration skills, communication skills, time management, conflict resolutions, you name it. So why is it important? It's needed These soft skills are needed to be successful in the workplace. So, for example, if someone can be excellent with the technical aspects of the job, but they can't manage their time or work within a team, they may not be as successful as their cohorts who can, you know, do some of those stuff. So, I'm going to share some table stakes soft skills, and these are not in order of preference. The first one that I'm going to talk about is self-awareness. What do I mean by that? It's actually the ability to see who we are clearly, to know our strengths and weaknesses, and the willingness to seek new challenges to learn and grow. Jasmine Friedel, a design director at Dropbox, narrowed it down to three qualities. The first quality is curiosity. If we are self-aware, and we had to be curious of how we are doing in our day-to-day, would be curious to have some sort of assessments of our abilities and capabilities. Either we conducted those ourselves or we get somebody else to conduct it. Would be constantly asking ourselves, how do we measure up to someone in our level or someone in the next level? Are we meeting the mark? And lastly, some of you have been doing this, like speaking with mentors, getting feedback, having a conversation about their design journeys, and learning about their learnings in life. That's curiosity. The second thing that she outlaid was authenticity. So in this context, it means being true to ourselves, being vulnerable, and at the same time open-minded. So I lived in New York for 8 years before I moved over to San Francisco. So what do we know about New Yorkers? I mean, I don't really have to pause there because like the word rude come to mind usually, right? So New Yorkers are rude before they haven't had their first cup of coffee. They're straightforward. They get shit done. They don't care much about small talk, and they work, work, and work. And coupled with the fact that I grew up in Singapore, where we are straightforward, we get shit done, and we work, work, work. I find myself being really different from people, in California or Californians. So, so it became really important for me to kind of be authentic and vulnerable and figure out what is it that I need to improve as a team leader, as someone in as a senior manager, most importantly. So after a month starting work in California, as my teams and peers and managers like, what are your impression of me and what could I do differently? The feedback I got gave me what I needed to modify certain behaviors so that they're not taken negatively and I can do more of the positives and still be my authentic self. When I reflect on where my relationship with my team is now, that authenticity and behavior modification had organically trickled down to the rest of the team. So the team dynamics have improved. The authenticity built the foundation for this psychologically safe team environment. So I was really glad I did it because it's really scary, especially when you're being vulnerable in a new workspace. So the third one that I want to talk about is flexibility. So in this context, it means being iterative and always looking for improvements. As designers, we adapt our work and approach as necessary based on new information, feedback, or perspective. So think about like design critics, think about your, getting stakeholder feedback, user interviews, and usability testings, and apply that mental model into self-learning, and you'll get flexibility. So why is self-awareness so important? I mean, everyone wants to get hired, right? And everyone wants to get promoted. So knowing your strengths and gaps gets you hired and promoted. Next is this thing called high agency. So it's the ability to work autonomously, take ownership and responsibility without diminishing or compromising the contribution of others. So that's kind of a lot. And let's unpack that. It comes down to two qualities. The first one being ownership. So ownership in the workplace means that you're taking initiative to bring about positive results. It also means not waiting for others to act and caring about the outcome as much as an owner of the company would. It is also being accountable for the results of your actions and, making sure that you are delivering the highest quality and also delivering the highest quality of work at a timely manner. Taking ownership shows others that you can trust, that they can trust you to do the right thing. The second quality is proactivity. Being proactive is opposite of being reactive. So it just means that you're doing the things you need to do before you need to do them. So a great example that I read from an article is regularly changing the oil in your car instead of waiting for it to start breaking down. So when you're proactive, you keep your car running smoothly and prevent those costly repairs, just to prevent them from like sputtering and spewing smoke, basically. And that minimal investment you make regularly pays huge dividends in the long run. So that's the essence of proactivity. Being proactive at work means you're always thinking about the future, you're always planning and preparing for what lies ahead. It also means anticipating the expected so that you can better deal with the unexpected. It just means taking action today to make tomorrow better. The next one that I want to highlight is collaboration. So we know that collaboration is teamwork taken to a higher level. So teamwork is often two or more people joining together to accomplish a task. Collaboration, however, takes place when two individuals or a group of people work together towards achieving a common goal by sharing their ideas and skills. So that does sound a lot like our day job, right? Like we are always collaborating. So what makes a great collaborator? Someone who has great communication skills. So, from stakeholder interviews to usability tests to product ideas to design handoffs, We must be able to articulate ourselves well at every stage of the design project. Not being able to communicate well causes hiccups. Like, you would want to gather the information you need to understand the problem and ultimately make the right recommendation. You also wouldn't want your work to be misrepresented and implemented in unexpected ways. You want to be able to present your work and also defend them compellingly. With great communication skills, you would also want to be able to work in a cross-functional team or work in a team in general. There are other things about, ability in working in a team, but one thing that I want to stress on is there may be times in your career when you put in a ton of effort only for your work to be set aside. And that's like crashing, but that happens. And, for an example, you may have spent like late nights in the pursuit of creating that pixel perfect interface for a product feature. Then the entire workflow ends up getting scrapped because someone else discovered a new, simpler way to get the job done. It's heartbreaking. But if you take a step back and see it from the big picture perspective, at the end of the day, it is the user's experience that matter. And that's the most important for any of the designers out there. We're moving on to open-mindedness. It just means, being receptive to other team members' point of view and suggestions and solving a problem, holding off judgment, actively building on each other's ideas, and also, again, the ability to look beyond the self and leave your ego at the door and just being able to work together and jive together. And I love collaboration. And, when you meet someone who you jive with, mind melding happens. And that's always my favorite part of being a designer. We're going to move on to critical thinking. This is another big one. So you probably have heard this like so many times, and it is a buzzword in the industry, but it is in fact the core skill that is needed as a designer. So if we think about it, right, as designers, we take the seed of an idea, we cultivate it, and then we bring it to fruition. We also strive to solve users' pain points and challenges. The first step in that direction is to get to know the problem at hand, and critical thinking is crucial to this process. It helps designers to understand, define, and ultimately solve design problems. So critical thinking also helps justify your design decisions with data. So, questions like, how are you threading that golden thread from the root cause and user needs to your designs to the business goals? What was the root cause that let you design your solutions this way? What is the business goal that you're working towards? So for example, if the business goal is user engagement, what was the root cause and research takeaways did you hear that is hindering user engagement? You got to take that binding and then design solutions for those. Hiring managers love to understand your process. Like, how do you make these design decisions? How do you use the data? What data did you use? What conclusions did you draw from the data? How do you approach and respond to given situations and problems? Critical thinking also encompasses problem solving. So there's a difference between the two. So problem solving skills help you determine the source of a problem and find an effective solution. And also problem solving is commonly used in brainstorming. Critical thinking is the step that analyzes which solution is best and understand whether or not the solution is working as it relates to the goal. So problem solving and critical thinking are different. They're both needed, but they're used at different stages of the project. We're going to move on to hard skills. So, hard skills are technical, job-specific related skills, often a reflection of your educational history. The hard skills of UX design include a sound understanding of the UX design process, the ability to deliver results, and also an eye for detail. Hiring managers want results-oriented candidates who can execute and create user flows, wireframes, prototypes, and interfaces. I've listed some of the hard skills of UX design. Not going to go through those and bore you with all the things we already know. Next, design thinking. This is another buzzword, but it's definitely more than that. It is a framework, it's a methodology, it is an approach to understanding problems and developing solutions. It's really iterative, and a ton of the teams out there use it to understand users, challenge assumptions, redefine problems, and create innovative solutions to prototype and test. It is most useful to tackle problems that are ill-defined or unknown and reframe those in human-centric ways and focus on what is most important for the users. With design thinking, product thinking also comes hand in hand. They are similar, but they are also differences. So product thinking is also a framework and an approach when addressing or solving a problem. Product thinking enables designers to build better products, and it's a way of examining every design decision in the context with the problem the user wants to solve and the business goal. So it's like, it's no surprise that we'll need a business, acumen for a someone under the umbrella or who's using product thinking. And it will also help you as a designer to connect more with your product managers. So in short, product thinking is create something useful. Product thinking is about designing something that resonates and meet the business goal. Whereas design thinking is more of like, don't make me think. Design thinking pertains more to a product strategy and the experience. So we're going to recap this. For soft skills, we've got self-awareness, we've got high agency, collaboration, and critical thinking. For hard skills, we've got mastery in the craft of execution, design thinking, and also product thinking. So the skills I've shared are not the end all and be all. Some hiring managers may care more about some versus all, one versus the others, or something else entirely. So it's like pretty difficult for us to basically, as a candidate or as candidates, to nail down what is it that they're looking for. But one thing that I want you all to remember is that getting a job and getting hired is a combination of everything. It's like making sure that the stars are aligned, right? So it's like the timing, I'm talking about the availability of a headcount, your luck, your personal branding, which includes your resume and portfolio. How did your personal interaction with the hiring manager go, or with the rest of the interviewees? And also depends on your network. So what else can you do to get your foot in the door or get noticed? This is what I really, really like to tell people, my mentees especially, and even myself. And pardon my French, I'm not apologetic about it actually, but I'm just gonna say it. UX the shit out of your application and interviewing journey. Like, do the usual UX stuff that we do. Like, know who are the key players in the journey, including yourself. What are the players' needs? Who are the main players? Who are the key players? What are their needs and pain points? What are their motivations and challenges? What's the company's services? What's its business model? What's its goal? Who are the competitors? So where do you find this? Where can you find this information? You could do your homework even before you apply for the job. There are so many clues out there. Job description would be where I would like to start mostly. You can use job description as a criteria for how do you want to present your resume to this person? What kind of studies do you want in your portfolio? Do you want to highlight and bring to attention to this hiring manager? Look at your hiring managers and interviewers' LinkedIn profile. Look at their social media. Look at their portfolio. Go to Glassdoor, read up about the company, go to Reddit, tap into your network and find out more about that company. So basically find clues that is readily available out there. The second thing is don't be afraid to ask questions. Interviews are always a two-way street. As much as they're assessing you, you're also assessing the company and the hiring managers. Don't be shy to ask recruiters who is your hiring manager, who will be your interviewers. Don't be shy to ask the hiring manager or the interviewers, what's the design or model? What's the team culture? What efforts have the company and team done towards like inclusion and diversity if that's something that you are passionate about? What's the company policy or self-improvements? Like, for example, some company have budget set aside for you to take courses or go to conferences. Other companies have programs to help you with career progression. Lastly, I would love for you to meet as many people as you can. Make friends, tap into your work network, and also communities like ADP List, where you could get mentors and schedule time with them. Make connections to people who work in those companies or the companies that you're interested in and are currently working there or have friends who work there just to find out more about the company. You can leverage that network and maybe someone you met are friends with someone who knows someone who has an open position that's not published yet, and that, believe me, that happened, and that happened to me before. Or you can get information from the mentor or that friend that you just made, or on and hopefully you can forge meaningful relationships in the course and then find your own squad of mentors, champions, and also sponsors. The next thing that I think is important for us when we are hunting for jobs is to be strategic. So we don't have all the energies in the world and we don't have all the time in the world. It'll be awesome if we do. So how do you expand your understanding and experience in soft skills? By being strategic. And I've broken it down into 3 points there. First one is your goals. Use your 2-year goal to chart the path forward. Like, ask yourself, what kind of designer do you want to be? What expertise do you want to delve in? What do you want to be remembered as? Or remembered, what do you want people to associate you with, like a certain expertise with? Figure out the skills you need to get to that 2-year goal. List out the skills you already have, and then figure out the gaps in the skills needed to your destination. And finally, plot your ways to get there. So as far as seeking out experiences to gain soft skills, you don't need to go back to school or get a job to start getting exposure. I mean, you can just maybe join design cohorts like Develop for Good or How I Can, where you can get more exposure to working together with engineers and product managers. And the most important thing, you are going to be solving real clients' problems. You can also get those skills from internships if you are still a student, or side projects, or hackathons and design jams. Just look into how the teams are put together in those hackathons, right? If you need more experience collaborating with engineers, make sure you get that and pick the hackathons and the design jams that will give you that. You can also actively seek freelance jobs and put yourself out there in Fiverr. So I met an emerging designer who spent a year out of school doing freelance jobs, some for free, and some for a little bit amount of money or compensation. And in his job search this year, he had offers from all of his dream companies. Like, who wouldn't want that? I would definitely do that if I know this would have been useful when I was first starting out. So be strategic and then pick projects that can help demonstrate the soft skills and the hard skills that hiring managers are looking for. You have nothing to lose. If anything, you've got this really great bonus. Like, you can get a case study or several case studies to put into your portfolio. So that's definitely a ton of info that I've just shared. And I'm sure you have a ton of questions for me, and I'll try my best to answer them. Cool.
Wait, hold on. There we go. Andy's in the house now. Natasha, that was awesome. And everybody, we got to do our kudos. So everybody, give it up for Natasha! Yay! Show your love. Show your love. Do 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 boop 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 do 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 do. Is anybody there? There was a lot of really good information in your talk. There we go. Thank you. Great
Yay.
job. Thanks. Thank you so much. Wash hands. I don't know what that means. Is
Yeah,
that
I don't know
I
what that means.
don't know. Well, that's always important in the COVID state. Well, that was super informative. Thank you. Apparently, they were all queued up at the same time. So we got, yeah, high five. Kate Rutter. Kate, thank you for coming by again. It's awesome to see you. Kate loves the gifts.
Yes, thank you for
Yeah.
letting me do it.
Yeah.
It's
Oh,
been my dream to have like as many gifts as possible in my presentation. So thank you for bearing with me.
next time I'm going to make you make all your own gifts. Thank you,
Mm.
Natasha. Super great. Thank you. Well, guess what? Natasha's not done. We have, I love these. Woohoo. Got another clap. Woohoo. Awesome. And then wait, hold on. Thank you. Awesome. Okay. So now I'm going to remove the big here. So I don't know. Should we leave that on? Well, everybody's got that information. I think it's awesome that you're on ADP list. Thanks for the knowledge of what you do. Awesome.
Aw, that's so
Yeah.
sweet. Thank you, you all. Yeah. So
Thank
yeah,
you.
let me know
Okay.
if you have any questions. I'm
Well,
here to help you.
we have questions. I'm gonna
Okay,
kick it.
I just
I'm gonna
haven't
kick it
see it.
off. I'm gonna kick it off, and then everybody else feel free to chime in. Natasha, since you're in the spotlight, you get the bigger stage. Oh
Oh
yeah.
no, I better
Oh
sit further
no.
away.
Oh no. Here we go. Um, okay. So I'm like, okay. Here's a question for you. What are some words that you not? Oh, we'll start over here. What are some interview questions that you ask to evaluate communication skills?
That is a great question. I don't normally ask them though. I'll just observe.
Y-
Because you can never ask, right? You can never like, hi, how good are you at presentation? You know, how good are you at conflict resolution? You want to have you'll especially for like communications, you want to observe that person. How are they, interacting with you? How are they presenting their portfolio? How are they structuring how they present their portfolio? Are they hitting all of like this good high level goals that they have? Because very immediately you can tell, like if someone comes into a presentation or into an interview unprepared, you can immediately tell they'll stutter. Um, they will forget what they're saying, or if we are over Zoom, you could totally tell if someone's reading the notes and stuff like that. So yeah, I don't really ask those, I just observe.
So communication skills, it's something that people have to practice to be able to, so it's not necessarily, well, how about conflict resolution? Do you ask them to describe a situation where they had to resolve a conflict, and how do you evaluate that?
Yeah, that's a great question. I normally will ask them to describe a you know if you're an intern, it's sometimes of like a not a conflict, but more of like a disagreement that they have in the group project. And from there, you'll be able to, depending of what they share, you'll be able to figure out, okay, does this person have an open mind? Are they able to try to get that side of the, contention? Or how do they smooth it out, and stuff like that. So do they come, hopefully they don't come to blows or like fight, like physical fight. But most of the time you'll be able to figure out if that someone is doing the right thing. And always the first thing about um, conflict resolution is the skill of listening and also empathy, right? So if you show that you have, or if your body of evidence, so when I talk about body of evidence, is like all of the stories, scenarios, narrative about yourself, or even your portfolio and resume, the more you can have that body of evidence that you can share with a hiring manager, the more we can get to know more about you. So don't be shy about like sharing your stories. So I have like interviewees who came and they were nervous, I could tell. So great interviewers will always try to probe you to unearth those questions without it being too leading. But if they never really ask you, if you're not meeting certain points and they never really try to get you to open up, then you may want to rethink whether you want to work there or not.
Yeah, because if it's not comfortable or like they're not actually interested in what you have to say, then it might not be the right fit. Yay, we have some questions
Exactly.
coming in. Yay. Okay. Starting with Demi. Thanks, Natasha. I heard a lot about what's valued for a team member, cooperation, flexibility, etc., versus how to show things to outsiders who may just be looking at your resume and portfolio. Part two. Could you expand on how you portray those values those valued attributes pre-interview? So how do you show that you're flexible, that you cooperate, and that you are a team player in your portfolio before you come into the interview? It's a good question.
That's a good question. The best thing to do is to have that in your case study. Like if there is a specific body of evidence that you can put into your case study, that would be awesome. Um, when you look at a portfolio or a resume, the first thing that you'll be looking for is your personal branding, right? That's the first thing that I would come in contact, or a hiring manager or a recruiter will come in contact in getting to know you. So make sure that your personal branding and your narrative is spot on. Make sure it's consistent throughout all of the social medias you have out there. Make sure it's in, your LinkedIn, your resume, and your portfolio kind of all lines up. And some hiring managers don't really read your case study, and that's totally fine. But for those who read yours, because I have a peer in the industry who doesn't believe with whiteboarding exercises or design exercises, because that's another separate conversation altogether. But what he does is that he does his due diligence. So he reads every single case study before he comes and, asks you to come in for an interview. And then he reads your resume. He does everything that he can to get to know more about you, to get to know your branding, to know this person who you're projecting in public before he comes and talk to you. So a good place for that to fill in all those valued attributes pre-interview is definitely case study. If you can, maybe the resume, although you want to put your resume in a just one page. So we'll see. So try that out and see if that works
Yeah.
for you.
Yeah, and then I mean, I feel like there's a lot of debate about how to format your portfolio, whether or not you should, just make it. I advocate to make it like a landing page, like a marketing landing page, where you have, this is what we do. This is like basically making a case for how effective you are and why people should do business with you, and then maybe some testimonials. There's your team players, they'll give you
Yeah.
testimonials. It's like, oh yeah,
Yeah,
we love working with Andy. Andy's awesome.
that's a great idea.
Maybe. But yeah, okay. So and then we have these are actually no, before we go into this question from Emily, which I think is really great, I think that we should talk about the hiring process at EA. Are you, as far as cover letters go, do you actually see the cover letters, or does it go through a recruiter and then to you?
It goes to a recruiter and then to a hiring manager.
Okay, so would the recruiter be the person who would look at a cover letter, or do you see the cover letters?
So this may be different from each companies, but I do work with a recruiter really closely. And in fact, maybe even some of the teams in EA don't really do that. So it's really different. To be honest, though, we don't require a cover letter. We don't usually have that, but you definitely want to attach that if that company wants it, and if you feel that's important, because whatever that, that narrative that you're saying is not clear enough, do it. It's not, it's always a 50-50. Some hiring managers won't read it, some hiring managers read it. Oops, my ears.
We said that would happen.
AirPods pop up.
That's okay. It's okay.
Yeah. So, if, as far as Emily's question, right, into what are we looking for in a cover letter, things that answer the job description. So always go back to the job description and see what I'm looking for, like what that hiring manager is looking for. If I'm looking for a designer who's really good at visual design, for example, I wouldn't want a cover letter that tells me about your UX research design, right? So those are pretty far apart, but you get the idea.
Definitely. Here we go. Okay, this is actually a great question from BFAM. B or Bay. I don't know. Am I saying it correctly? I want pronunciation on everything, so I always pronounce everybody's name correctly. Okay. Is it good to email the hiring manager directly versus go through the recruiter to get an interview?
It is good to try. Some hiring managers are fans of the bold. Some hiring managers would probably ignore it, or some hiring managers will direct you to a recruiter. It's always good to try because you never know, right? So I have a really great story. So one of our UX associate actually DM'd my manager for an internship. So she got that internship. We extended her for another internship, and then now she's a full-time UX associate. So try it out and see how it goes.
How did you get in touch with them, though?
She LinkedIn him. She LinkedIn messaged him. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Continue. Yeah.
So it's, yeah, like I said, some hiring managers are fans of the bold. Just make sure that whatever that you are, that message, that cold message that you're sending out embodies who you are and your branding, right? And be really clear, like what you want out of that person, because you can't just say, hey, and then you disappear. So we need something. We need like some sort of like a topic so we know how to engage with you.
Awesome. Now, question okay, so this had a +1, even though we do have a lot of events about research and a lot of fantastic speakers about user research. And so, Ben, to follow up, we have a bunch of content on Design Career Network that you can browse through with like Michelle Ronson and different series about like data and design and researching, qualitative research, surveys, all that stuff. But out of curiosity, no, not out of curiosity, Ben is asking, what makes a great UX researcher? Like, do you hire researchers or is there a separate team? And what would help inspire confidence to hire somebody for that role?
That's a great question. I would actually invite you to also answer this, Andy, since you have other events that are great ones on the topic of great researchers. I do hire researchers. What would inspire confidence for me to hire that person? So I look for empathy, and I have a tendency to hire for the heart, not for the brain, if that makes sense. I have a tendency to hire for the soft skills. I have a tendency to hire for experience. I have a tendency to hire for how are you gelling with my team? Are you going to be a good addition, or are you going to be a bad addition? Are you going to be a good addition to the diversity that I have in terms of culture, in terms of like working together? So that's for me. But the table stakes for UX researchers would be, if you have a strong body of evidence. I keep going back to that. So super important for you to have your body of evidence, locked up tight and ready to go, and for you just to be ready to like share with everybody. So for example, if you are, and that ties back to your personal branding, right? You can't just say that, oh, I am, for example, if it's in your portfolio, in your introduction, you say, oh, I love accessibility and I'm into inclusive design. But then when I'm looking at your portfolio, there's like no body of evidence that's supporting that. So that's just an example, right? So that wouldn't inspire confidence in me, even if, if I like your, if we meet and then, I think that you'll be a great fit to the team and I love yours, and I know you have all of the soft skills and I know that I have confidence that you can do certain things, then absolutely, I will definitely consider you for the role. But remember that body of evidence, always important.
Awesome. And I guess I will add on to that. That I love what you're saying. You need to actually show your value through your work that you do. Your work is going to speak louder than anything. But also, there was a couple things that Michelle Ronson, who is like a well-respected researcher, she's amazing, and she spoke at our event at Design Career Network, maybe like for I don't know, like a couple weeks ago. She's fantastic. And anyway, I would say a couple things. I say one is that you have a growth mindset, that you're willing to grow, you're curious, you're willing to learn new information. Two is that you're actually like you have those examples. I definitely agree with that. That you're clear in communicating. You're able to report your findings very clearly and succinctly. So it's like a lot of it is like synthesizing a lot of information and summarizing it in a clear, concise way. And then giving presentations. Yeah, you have to work on your presentation skills, because if a company's going to spend all this time and money on you to go out and learn all this stuff, you have to be able to present it in a way that they understand. So I think that having those communication skills, having presentation skills is really important. And also not being afraid to ask a lot of questions and actually sit back and listen. And as far as more stuff, I can just refer you to the other talks. But oh wait, number one, actually, how do you drive impact through the business to the business? How did you
Exactly.
impact the business? Are you business oriented? Can you look at their goals and say, okay, we met this goal, or we increased revenue by this amount of money through this research, or you're just presenting information to the team and letting them make their own decisions. But it's really just about everything kind of centers around business goals. So
Yep.
that's how I would add to
I
it. Okay.
agree to that.
Awesome. Okay. Hope that helps. Christine M, what is the percentage of job description skills in your job post that you expect to actually find in your candidate? Good question.
This is a great question. This is a great question. And I love that a woman is asking this because I don't know if you know of this study that women has a tendency to apply for jobs that meet 100% of their capabilities. Whereas men, um, as soon as they hit like 60% or maybe 50% or 60%, they will go ahead and just apply. So my take on that, apply, try it out, because it's never only about your capabilities. It's about other stuff. It's about your team fit. It's about how you work. It's about your mindset. It's about, like all of the soft skills that I shared earlier. It's also about how you drive with the team, how you drive with my team. Do I want to work with you? Can I see myself mentoring you? How do you what is the business goal? What is the business need that I am, that I am serving in hiring you? So that's definitely, there's just so many things. There's not just like, oh, this is the job description. I have to fit all of them. No, the job description is just one aspect of it. The others is like through my interaction with you, through whatever that I see out there, whatever branding that whatever narrative that you want people to know about you.
Yeah. Absolutely. And then half of the time, like I've said this on other shows, that half of the time the job description is just like a test. So they might create multiple job descriptions or multiple titles for the same job just to see who responds, and they're not even clear on what they're looking for. So it's like better to but it does take a lot of energy and time to apply to a job. And
Yeah.
I have heard that it's better to use a cover letter than not, unless you have like a direct connection with the hiring manager. But I love that you hire with, oh, this is great. I love that you hire from the heart. And then after this, I'll get to Kate's question. With that in mind, can you discuss your approach for hiring for potential versus experience? What a great question.
That's a great question. And that's there's no right and wrong answer for that one, unfortunately. Um, so I'm definitely a big fan of someone who's a proven designer. That to me means like someone who has experience and have shown results in the experience, the business impact and the impact. How are they affecting, change or helping other people's lives better with their work? Definitely a fan. A little bit of a story is because, maybe there are other hiring managers like me in the past because we've probably have gotten burnt before for someone who said that they can do this, and then we hire them. When they come in, the reality is really different. so, so that then, you know, um, that's a hiccup, right? So, and then you'll probably need to figure out like, how do I solve the situation and stuff like that. So, as far as hiring for potential, so coming back to that story for my UX associate, we hired her definitely for potential. And we assess how you are, like, what's your mindset? I always go back to the soft skills because I cannot teach you soft skills. And it goes against my values to teach you to be better at soft skills. Because it's like, how can I tell you to collaborate better? Like, how can I tell you to not speak one way or speak another way? That's really not what diversity and inclusion is all about. Um, I will go back and look at the soft skills, and then I will look at how you react under certain situations and how you respond for it. That's how I will assess for potential, for sure. And also for, in assessing for potential or hiring for potential, I want to make sure that my team or that you are set up for success. So if I know that I cannot hire someone, or if I can't find like a perfect candidate through experience, right, by assessing their experience, then I need to go back to the drawing board and make sure that if I am hiring someone based on potential, I want to make sure that my team is all set up to be able to help you along the way and realize that potential too. Like it's really a loss for you and also a loss for me if I bring you on and I don't have anybody or the process or like, any mentors to help you along the way. Because I want you to have a good time and I want you to progress in your career. So I definitely, need to look into like what is available in my team. Like what is the demand in terms of like work wise? Is there bandwidth and stuff like that? So there's a ton of like factors that would affect a hiring manager in that decision, like making a decision of hiring someone. So I hope
Totally.
that's
Yeah.
helpful.
Oh, it's very helpful. And also thinking about like to add to that, what is the immediate work need that can they
Mhm.
fulfill it and help out and jump in, and then like basically do they have the skills right now to help out with that specific role and then grow, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Now I'm gonna scroll up to Kate. Kate Rudder, what questions do you love to get from candidates and interview participants? I know we touched on this in the beginning, but we're diving in now.
Oh, this is a great one too. Um, I I usually like to get questions that show me that they are very interested in the role and that they're being strategic about their career progression. So, for example, questions like, what are the main challenges that this person in this role would experience when they get, when they come on board. So that's been like one of my favorites because that shows me that this person is being strategic and is trying to find out more about the company versus asking like, the obvious question. So that's my one favorite. The second one is when they ask me about what are my motivations or like what is my working style, just to gauge if we can work together and stuff like that. And because diversity and inclusion is very important for me. I always love it when they ask me questions around that area, like specifically, like from my own experience, what are the things that the company is doing in that area? So those are like my three favorite questions.
Awesome. And I think you might have answered this already, but just again, just to make sure that everybody gets their questions answered as long as they're appropriate. How do you determine cultural fit?
I assess soft skills.
Well, yeah, and then
Yeah.
you look and see how they fit in with your
Yeah.
team, right? And then
Yes.
what about personalities, like introvert versus extrovert? What is your team like? Or not necessarily your
Um,
team, but like the teams that you build.
I So my friend is gonna laugh at me, and I don't mean this in a derogatory way, but I usually hire Asian robots because um, I used to.
How do
I
I
would
become
say
one? No, I'm just kidding.
I am. I'm gonna say I used to. And then I realized that that's not diverse at all, or inclusive at all. So I've moved past that. Um, Whether you're an introvert or an extrovert doesn't really matter for me, as long as I know that you have, or as long as I'm confident in you getting the job done, right? So we talked about that need and that gap in like what's the immediate need and what is the 2 or 3 year goal need that I can, see you growing into, or can I fit you into the team for that need? Do you have the skill sets, or do you have that um, mindset that gels with the rest of the team? And also, does your mindset actually make a great addition to the team versus, perpetuating this same kind of mentality that we have? So yeah, that's totally how I assess for like cultural fit. That's why it's really important not to just have me as a hiring manager interviewing people. It's important to have like a diverse set of people with a diverse set of levels to interview like candidates to come into the team, because you want to be able to hear as much as possible, and you want to, I wouldn't say test. I would say you want to try to see how, you know, if you're fitting with each other, are you understanding each other? Are you also working with each other? So what's the probability of that? So that's how usually I would determine that. I would get like, I will talk to your interviewers for sure and ask specific questions around cultural fit or behavioral, behavioral interviews are usually um, some of my favorites, because that shows me what kind of person you are, what's your mindset, and are you showing a tendency to like one soft skills versus another, or are you showing a tendency to one mindset versus another? So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that you're getting feedback from other men, employees, colleagues. So that way it's not just like a one-sided thing. It's like how do we all collectively perceive this candidate? Okay, so we have time for a couple more questions. I graduated in industrial design, but have moved into UX research slash interaction design. Pick one. No, I'm just kidding. My my website is 3 UX design projects. However, I'm wondering if I include my past work, would it aid me or hurt me? What is your past work? Industrial design work, I guess.
Yeah, industrial design. Um, I would say as long as you have a good narrative about your transferable skills, I think you'll be fine. So, like, what is it that you've learned in industrial design that could be ported over naturally to UX research or interaction, right? Because, like, I don't know I don't know, what are the skills that is needed in industrial design, and how does that transfer over to UX interaction and or UX research. So, so as long as you have that narrative, I think that will be okay. And I think that narrative will actually tell you whether you should put your password or not, to be honest.
Yeah. And also like look at the skills for a researcher or the job that you're trying to get,
Hmm.
and maybe look at a job description and say, okay, do I have that, or do I have any experience that reflects, kind of mirrors that, and then maybe
Yeah.
aligning that with your work, with your portfolio work. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. Because so I pivoted into UX design. I have no certificate on UX design. Can tell you that. I went to school for communication design slash graphic design. I was a graphic designer for about 10 years when I decided, well, I was a graphic designer slash art director because I was in an advertising agency, doing all these campaigns and all of that. And when I realized that I want to stop doing this because it's just like, it's so subjective. I'm basically selling things that people don't need, right? So, like, who wants to do that? And at that point in my life, I wanted to help somebody. I wanted to leverage my skills so that it could be, so that I could help people, whatever it is. And anyway, long story short, because I have really strong visual skills. So, and I have this domain knowledge of having worked in an agency, and all of my work has been customer facing. So, what is it for me that is the easiest to sell that narrative of transferable skills? And that came to me. I was very specific. I wanted to work in an agency, and then I wanted to work as a visual designer. So the first pivot jobs that I applied for was a visual designer position in an agency. And from there, I kind of work with my manager after I got accepted. I work with my manager to figure out how can I learn on the job? How can I learn more about UX? How can I learn more about UX research? But at the same time, before I made that pivot, I also was doing a ton of this hackathons, design jams. I was doing a ton of freelance jobs basically on the site just to like learn real world experiences and also solve real design problems basically.
That's awesome. So like slowly lead, like basically find the most transferable skills and create portfolio pieces or projects that will that you'll be able to dive in soon, and then you'll slowly get into the role that you want. And I understand, like I feel like the same way about UX, by the way. It's like design is so, like I feel like visual design, it is subjective, but it becomes objective when it actually has a purpose and understanding. Like when you dive in, you're able to explain the reasons why you selected
Yes.
something, and then it's like you just can't replace the kind of thinking that we have to do as UX designers, and it kind of changes your life, I think. You
Yeah.
become you UX the shit out of everything. I, s- I don't
I
usually
think
curse, but right now I
I
did.
think we all do.
Yeah.
We all have a tendency to do that, no, because we've just been in the business for so long now.
It's it's fun. Um, Geo asks, does age play a big role when your company hires a candidate? It's a good question. I find that it's harder to apply at age 50. What's your honest answer to this? What role are you applying for?
Yeah, I think that would be the question.
Is
So
it like an
if
intern
you,
role, or, you know, I don't mean to sound like that, but like honestly, like it's like if you're trying to break into the industry. Anyway, go ahead.
um, well, I wonder if I should be honest or not. I'm just kidding. Uh,
Yeah,
well,
I mean, you can do whatever you're comfortable
oh,
saying. Yeah,
I was being snarky actually. So I'm sorry, Gio. I was just like, I don't know why, why would I lie about it? But yeah, I would definitely answer it honestly. Um, in my team, I don't think age plays a role for sure, because like I have really well, yeah. I don't think age plays a role in my team, to be honest. It's all about capabilities and it's about cultural fit and team fit and about your mindset. So I think it depends on your, it's hard because, there's people don't realize that they're biased, right? They're biases. I mean, I myself, I'm pretty sure I have a ton of biases that I have not um, also realized myself. So I think the key for you would be to finding that branding or that narrative that works. So if you are, oh, he answered graphic design. Why would your are you pivoting into graphic design, or are you, because that makes a whole lot of difference. If you are trying something new at the age of 50, then the approach will be different, right? Your approach of your narrative, your approach to your portfolio, it will all be different. So if you're pivoting at the age of 50, that's totally fine. I think I would commend you for doing that because not a ton of people, I don't think I would be able to do that if I was 50. I wouldn't be courageous enough. Um, but the approach will be different because you want to talk about your transferable soft skills, what you can bring to the workplace versus your hard skills, right? If you're pivoting into graphic design, because in terms of hard skills, you probably would need to learn more and more as you have the chances to apply them. But the soft skills is the key there and your experience, right? So if you can leverage your experience and the transferable skills, and then you can connect that dot for the hiring manager, I think you'll be fine. I think you'll be able to actually get your foot in the door.
But okay, and also like maybe sometimes that we have if people don't hire us directly, we have to create our own opportunities, and
That's right.
that means that you can make your own brand or like go on maybe
Go on
freelance,
Fiverr.
yeah, Fiverr, Upwork. I don't know if they may not pay the best, but you can find some opportunities to build up your portfolio. And I feel like no matter what, like if you're really good at what you do and you hustle and you're passionate and you're like easy to work with, which means you listen and you're willing to grow and get feedback, then people will want to hire you. It just depends on the
Mm-hmm.
opportunity in the company. Your age should not get in the way of that. Like, my dad reinvented his whole business at like 60 something years old and he's still running it. And it just really has to do with who you are and how hard you work, and also your communication style.
I
And
love it. I
yeah,
love
and
I love that answer. Yeah,
I
it's
love
totally
your
true.
answer too. Absolutely. Okay, so this is I don't know if Long has a question about no, I agree with you. The age, just look at age as like, okay, I've been around this long and then what am I going to do today? Yeah. Something awesome. Um
Exactly.
Okay, and okay, we have a time for like a couple more questions, even though I said that before, but I'm actually enjoying this. So, what are some of the red flags that have happened in an interview that you thought have just ended the potential of a hire? Okay, you're done. Get out. Get out. Sorry. That's really funny. Go.
That's a great question. I'm trying to remember. So this is definitely my bias. I have to check myself when this happens. So whenever a candidate comes unprepared, I'll get annoyed, and I continuously have to check myself on this because, like, it's it really irks me when young designers or when candidates do that because, you know, if this is something that matters to you, please show some passion for it. So that's, but I do check myself on that, and you do not, and by the end of the interview, I do not, I'm losing the English word for it. I don't
You're
reject
apathetic.
that person.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
not interested, and you're like, but do you tell them or do you just kind of say, okay, thanks, bye.
No, I need to like be able to check myself of my biases, right? So as soon as I remember that, as soon as I realize immediately that I have that, I will remind myself, recenter, and then definitely, you know, make sure that I'm giving that person the same chances that I'm giving the rest of the candidates. So I'm actually a really easy interviewer because I believe in giving the interviewees an open book test, and a ton of other companies out there, they want to see you succeed. So often or more often than not, the recruiters will invest in you, will work together with you, will not give you the answers, but will, like, give you the open book test and prep you for that. Um, and at least if that person show up after I have given them all of that, then doesn't that tell me something, right? So if I've given them all of these chances and then you did not take it, does that tell me something, or does that not tell me something? So that's the question. And also, if I feel that you are not, if I'm not getting the answers that I want from you, I will continually ask. Some people will, like, I have had feedback from one candidate that it was weird that I keep asking about the same questions, but I'm like, I'm giving you a chance, dude.
Yeah, I'm trying to get you to answer it. I feel
I'm
like
trying
that.
to give you the equal
Yeah,
footing
yeah,
with everybody else, right? So, like, if you don't answer that, then at least I know I've tried my best.
yeah, absolutely. And try to understand them. And this is a really good question. And this is going to be our final question for the night. And that is, Alexis asks, how do you tell the difference between nervousness and lack of preparedness? Or does it matter? Like, what if somebody's just nervous?
No, that's totally a great question. And it does matter if there is a difference between nervousness and lack of preparedness. So it's like running a workshop. Interviewing someone it's like running a workshop, to be honest. So you constantly have to check yourself. You constantly have to try to, like, gauge the temperature in the room. And you constantly have to see and observe the participants in the room and try to, like, steer them towards where you want to be. So if I know that someone is really nervous, sometimes I will, like, I will switch on I'm actually an introvert. So I try my best to switch on my extrovert hat and try to make that person feel better. And I'll try to smile more because, there are some, I've been interviewed by some scary looking people and I get really nervous. So yeah, like, you, as an interviewer or as a hiring manager, you want to make sure you level that playing field for everyone else. Because to your question, Alexis, there are two types of interviewees out there. One who is really a professional interviewee, right? She or he could be really good at it. We can think on the ball really fast, answers greatly, and on the other hand, you will have this person who's like super nervous and, does not is not a professional interviewee. So I've hired people like that before, and that person is doing a great job. So so I don't know how to answer the question.
Oh, you just
Like,
did. You
how do
just
you?
did.
Yeah, I don't know how to
Well,
tell the difference.
Well, to tell the difference between you don't necessarily tell the difference, but you just try and make them as comfortable as possible,
Yeah.
so that way you can tell the difference. If they're comfortable and they can't answer the questions, then they might not be the right person. But it's like, how do you make them feel comfortable? Also, sometimes it's like, do they have, yeah, and then they're not prepared. If But I do think that sometimes it's like a nervousness thing. Like, there's been times where I've been interviewed, and then later I was like, wow, I should have given them that answer, and I'll actually go back and email them with that example and try and, like, write in a concise way. I'm sorry I didn't include this in the interview. Somehow it was blurred
Yeah.
out of my memory, and try and, like, it's like, it won't hurt, but as long as you're not harassing the person who interviewed you, it won't hurt to give them a little bit extra context if you realize that you forgot something. But it is a scary thing to be interviewed, because, and also rejection sucks. But the more that we interview, the more that we realize it's less about us and more just about finding the right fit for the company, and maybe we just have to up
Yeah.
our skills. So
And one thing that really has always been really helpful for me is to treat each interview as a data gathering experiment or exercise. So as long as you put your growth mindset hat on and you go in there with like, okay, so here's are the data that I want to collect. Did I collect this data? And if I do collect this data, how do I turn this into insights? And is this going, and how do I iterate on my approach? And that's always been really helpful with me. Whenever I get really nervous, that's the inner thing that I always try to
that's awesome. It's
yeah.
it's like your growth. Well, I don't want to say growth hacking because I don't like growth designing and using data points. Good tips. Thank you so much. Awesome. So everybody, we're here. Wait, hold on. Let's hide that. Oh, I have to add the kudos. Awesome. Everybody, give it up for Natasha.
Yay. Thank you so much for
Thank
coming.
you. Thank you. And you
I
can
hope,
follow. Yeah. Go ahead. I'm
yeah,
sorry.
good. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, we're
Yeah,
talking the
no.
same time. Yeah, let's keep talking. No.
Yeah, no, I hope that was helpful. And yeah, try to, if you would like to schedule time with me, go ahead on ATP list. If you want to get in touch, go ahead on LinkedIn. And if you want to get inspired, follow me on Tree with Truth.
At Instagram. And thank you all for coming out so much. And we'll have next week, we're actually having a double decker on Thursday. And we're gonna have we're gonna have Nick talk about. I'm like, I don't know why Nick's last name. Sorry, it's so bad. Hold on a second. I'm like, this is one you don't want to miss, but his last name just keeps Nick Fink. He's gonna talk about how to build a well-rounded and effective team, and this will be like during the daytime. We're gonna have a lunch and learn. And Nick worked at, I believe he worked Amazon and Facebook and consulted for like some of the biggest companies in the world. And also he's super duper inspiring and active in the design community. He's there to help you. That's at 12:30 or 12 o'clock. I'm not sure. I'll have to look it up. And then at nighttime, since we didn't have an event last week, we're going to have it next week. So we'll have 2 for Thursday, not 2 for Tuesday. And we'll also have Magali Green, who's the design recruiter at LinkedIn. And she's going to talk about how to fill out your LinkedIn profile to really get attention and do it.
That's a good one.
Yeah. And she actually recruits designers at LinkedIn. She'll be looking at my profile, and I don't even know what she's going to say, but I said, sure, you can use my profile as an example, which is like, it's got a lot of stuff. So it will be really interesting, and I'm confident that you'll learn a lot, whether you're a junior designer or a student just getting into the space, or you're a manager. We try to create content for all of you because we want you to excel in your design career and make sure that it's meaningful and that you're actually moving along the right path. Also, if you know anybody who does exercises on whiteboarding, that's one thing that I really want to have an event about, how to like answer the whiteboard challenge. And also looking for speakers in augmented reality and virtual reality 3D design. So just keep that in mind. You can email me, Andy at, I'm like, which email should I give? We'll go Andy at cascadesf.com or Andy at designcareer.net. Wait. Sorry. Andy at designcareer.org. That's a new one for me. So here, I'll put it on the screen so everybody can remember. Yeah.
That sounds great.
Awesome. And then for those of you who missed the beginning, you can rewatch this talk on youtube.com/design career network. Subscribe to us, like this video if you loved it as much as I did. And we will see you next week. Thank you, Natasha. Hang out for just a minute. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Bye. We got to wave. Smile and wave.